Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
That's right. When you don't know what to do, just keep on breathing. From New York, the city of angels, both of them. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg at the Caregiver Space. Say hello, Adrienne.
Hello.
See, she's there. Coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on numerous syndicated radio and podcasts on 25 audio and video platforms, including shows like iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher Radio. I mean, the list goes on. And in fact, we're voted number one, and we're proud to be number one, Caregiver podcast on the top 50 on Player FM, and number 3 on FeedSpot out of thousands. And we especially are excited for today's show. And we have with us former adult daycare facility owner Aysha Treadwell. Hear about some powerful tools for caregivers and how to deal with dementia, as well as how Aysha also provided alternative care plans to hundreds of caregivers and families. And due to the COVID-19 crisis, she transitioned the adult day facility, instead of going broke, to a caregiver resource center, continuing to provide seniors and caregivers with care just in a different way. But before we get started, I want to take this moment and thank my last week's guest, MJ Vogel, 3 Habits for Radical Success to Accomplish Everything You Ever Wanted. MJ's a high-performance transition coach who has and continues to have a chronic illness and gets through it miraculously. And just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of the other 25 networks, some I mentioned, iHeartRadio, iTunes, etc., as well as this one also. And I think that's enough of that. Aysha, welcome to the Caregiver Dave Show. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I always like to ask my guests, what's that question we always like to ask our guests, Adrienne?
We always ask them what their purpose, why they were put on this earth.
That's right. Oh. Why was Aysha Treadwell put on this earth? I thought I'd let Adrienne say it that time.
Okay. Well, I found my purpose to be a change agent in the way senior care is provided.
Well, that's needed, isn't it, Adrienne?
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, short and sweet to the point.
That's
so tell me, were you ever a caregiver to a personal family member?
I have had a couple of caregiving experiences. More so with my mother when she had surgery. So I just took care of her a couple of times when she had knee surgery. 3 times makes a charm. And then my father is suffering from Parkinson's, but he is in Indianapolis. But I get to kidnap him every so often, bring him down to Atlanta to enjoy some better weather than Indianapolis and spoil him a little bit as he's done all my life. So.
I love Atlanta. I've been there many, many times. Do you love Atlanta?
I do love Atlanta. We get a little taste of the seasons.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Of course you love Atlanta.
Yes, and I said next time you come, we have to meet in person.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me. Now, what kind of care did your adult daycare facility provide to the seniors there? How did it work?
We provided care during the day for seniors that couldn't stay safely in their home by themselves, that either suffered from a cognitive or physical impairment. And so they would come and have fun with us all day with activities and good food, but then we also had medical oversight.
Wait a minute. You had good food there?
Of course. My mother is the cook, so you know it's good food.
No wonder it's a hit. Wow, good food. Motherly
Good food's
food.
important, yeah.
Good
And
food and smelled good, which I heard a lot of people say when they would come through the door. Because going along with being a
Mm-hmm.
change agent in the way senior care is provided, facilities don't have to smell bad to take care of seniors.
Right.
amen to that. So you also said you have fun. So what kind of fun? Because caregivers need to learn how to have fun with their loved ones. What kind of things did you do to, just have a ball?
We had activities throughout the day based on whatever they like to do. So we had a lot of participants, is what we called them, participant-led activities, so that they were involved and they were doing what they wanted to do, which is being the leader of the pack. So we would do Pictionary or, we would have physical activities, a brain stimulating activity, sensory, Bible study, you name it. If a lot of people that came in, they would sit in the lobby and say they are having too much fun behind those doors.
So
So
give
a
me some
lot of dancing.
examples. Give me some examples of some of the things that they like to do, especially.
You know, we used to have a where we would make healthy smoothies, and so they would put all that together and share that with each other. As much as we tried to lessen bingo, that was just not an option. We had to have bingo, so we just created
Bingo.
bingo.
That's a big hit, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's more about the prizes. So we had created where they could win adult day money and spend it in the store at the end of the week.
So what is adult day money? Explain that.
We created it. We created our own money.
Wow. And what
Yeah.
kind of things can they buy in the store? Snicker
Any kind of,
bars.
well, we didn't have much candy, but
Good.
more of
Oh,
just needs that some of them couldn't get to the store. So if they could buy lotions and feel good self care
toothpaste,
stuff and
toothbrushes.
brushes and yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
But they'd rather have Snickers bars,
I'm sure. We were asked many a times if we would get a margarita machine, but that was
right?
crossing the line of my business license, so I couldn't have it.
Well, you
Mm.
could have made virgin margaritas. So how long
That is
how
much
long were
fun.
Virgin
you
margaritas.
Yeah, but they don't know, do they? Anyway, these were where the caregiver comes and just drops them off and they leave, right? They're not there
Yes.
having fun with you, are they?
I'm sure they would have liked to, but they had to go to work or go get their own respite time.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. They weren't going to let let that opportunity go to waste. So how long were you in business?
A little over 10 years.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
then did you also have special education programs for the caregivers, like when they would pick them up, or maybe a special day that you would, teach them how to be better caregivers or anything like that?
Well, when I started to get a lot of feedback and questions from our caregivers, uh, our nurse, our RN, and I ended up becoming trainers for Powerful Tools for Caregivers and dealing with dementia. And those were both education programs to support the caregiver.
I wanted to know what the age range was of I'll call them your members, your
Okay, thank
community.
you. Our average age was around 80 years old.
Okay.
That's a good age.
A good
Uh-huh.
age to have a lot of fun too, right?
Yeah. So why
Yeah.
dementia? Did most of the people who came to your facility, to your daycare, have dementia? Most of them, or not really?
I would say about 70% of the people had a
Wow.
cognitive
Hmm.
impairment. And some
Yeah.
had a physical impairment that just couldn't allow them to be at home and do their daily living tasks
Right.
by themselves.
Yeah, I used to sing at the local daycare center, the senior center they called it, and I remember there were some characters, because they would come to lunch there. They would feed them. And the food, was okay. A lot of complaints about the food. That's why I say if you got your mother in the back there cooking, but then they got a new chef, and it was better. It was better food, but not like mom's. But I remember, so I'd be singing during the lunchtime, and this guy's on the piano, and he only knows the same tunes over and over again. But they can't even hear me, so I could have been terrible. And as long as they weren't throwing fruit, and tomatoes at me, I thought I was doing a good job. But some of those dementia patients are characters, really funny. Because they've got their own little personality, and you just grow to love them.
Yes,
and,
you do.
Sometimes they're a little outrageous, and sometimes they're a little loud. And he's, there's Harry, doing. He'll be okay. Because it's startling when someone just yells. And I'm sure you had patients or seniors like that. I don't want to call them patients because they're not patients.
Senior gems, yes, that brought a lot of different personalities.
Yeah, and I loved the workers at my particular place because they were just so, man, nothing stresses them out, nothing freaks them out. They just go with the flow. And is it hard to find people, staff members who've got your attitude and your philosophy and your policies,
Well, Dave, I feel like I was blessed with a lot of good employees. And they had to learn my standard of excellence. And if you couldn't meet that, it was okay. No hard feelings. I'm sure there's another job out there for you.
Great attitude. So, you were in business for 10 years. I'm sure you had. See, I have a gas station. I've had my gas station for 42 years.
Wow.
And stuff happens, right? So much stuff happens that I wrote a book about it, Getting Hosed, Secrets, Confessions, and Tales of a Gas Station Owner, because just some of the things you wouldn't believe. I would guess that in 10 years, you've got some pretty funny stories or unbelievable stories or strange stories that maybe you can probably share one or two of them here and make us laugh.
Well, I think
anonymously, of course.
Anonymously, yes. The names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Well, I think it was just always interesting. We would have dance parties, and some of the ladies like to, what we call it nowadays, drop it like it's hot. They could still do that. So we were just there to make sure no one hurt themselves. I had expanded my building in 2015. I hadn't thought about this in 5 years, so this is an interesting share. But when we expanded the building, we had a pole sitting right in the middle of the adjoining rooms. And we had to build a casing around it. But before we did that, they asked if they could use the pole.
Pole dancing.
So that shows that love connection, that sexual behavior never goes anywhere. So.
Wow. So tell me about some of the powerful tools and tips for caregivers that you have come up with.
Well, part of what you said earlier is, with the staff, they are able to go with the flow. The difference is we are meeting this person and getting to know the person from where they are right now. Having a grandfather that suffered from Alzheimer's, I know it's a little bit more difficult for the family member because it's a person that you knew, and now some of the behaviors are changing. But to go with the flow, and at some of the most difficult moments, just laugh at them. Like, I had a woman come into my office, or use my office one time, one of our members, as Adrian called them, and she had mistaken my office chair for the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
But it was okay. Now take that into a caregiving situation with your full day of you may have worked or bills or phone calls, or it's just not going your way, that can end up being a frustrating moment. So taking those
Oh,
moments
yeah.
and just laugh, let it go. It'll come
Yeah, I
back.
wanted to ask you about the kinds of hours. Were they sort of fluid? I mean, some people would start work at, let's say, 9 to 5. Some people might be working 2 to 10. And
Hmm.
did you have that kind of flow of people coming through, or were they really 9 to 5ers primarily?
We were open 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
So, and we just asked so that the person can get the best out of the day, establish a routine to try to be there by 10 o'clock. Breakfast though ended at 9:30, so most people
Okay.
came by 9:30.
Yeah.
They were there till 6. The caregiver was taking advantage of the full day, which is really what they needed. And
which is
hopefully that
smart.
was, yeah, hopefully that was
This
providing the respite time that they needed to be able to be a better caregiver that evening.
Yeah. Now, some of the little romantic things that were going on at
were there
my
they were there.
daycare center, these seniors have got a lot of hormones, like junior hires for some strange reason. You think that when you get older, the libido kind of goes away, but I just recall that a lot of these senior centers are like junior high. There's dating, there's jealousies going on, there's other things going on. Did you notice that too? Do these seniors, love is in the air?
Oh, yes. And it was nice to see them have that connection because think about it. You're at home with your most times adult child. You're not getting the affection that you would if you still had a spouse.
Hmm,
So you
that
find
is
it at
true.
the center in a comfortable place with people that are your age. So why
Yep.
not?
Yeah. It's cute, it's fun, it's innocent, I guess. But
I
there
don't
were
know if I'd say
actually
that, but
I
there
don't
were
either.
actually a couple of marriages going on. Two people actually got married. One was like 90, and he married a 70-year-old woman. Maybe she just wanted his money, I don't know, but they were a pretty good match, and they were good on the dance floor. So anyway, we are going to take a short break, and we will be right back. Don't go away. Anytime we suffer loss, we grieve. And a lot of people don't realize what even the grief process is. But it could be 5 to 7 steps ranging from denial, I don't believe this is happening, anger, oh my gosh, I'm so upset this is happening, to a form of bargaining, how can I get out of this, to depression, which is a very serious thing because that often leads to suicide. And then finally, after you realize you have no more control over your situation, and you're totally okay with the new normal that it brings, that wonderful, wonderful place called acceptance. We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences. Plus, add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. You get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we're here to support you and to help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope. Well, and we're back on our show with Aysha and Adrian. I'm Caregiver Dave, and we're talking about seniors. So you said you were in business for 10 years. What happened that made you have to transition?
COVID happened, and we could no longer. COVID happened. COVID happened to everyone, but it really impacted senior care businesses,
Sure.
and which left a lot of our caregivers at home, isolated with their loved one. But we closed, thinking that we would only be closed for a couple weeks, like everyone else. And 2 months later is when I had to make the hard decision to pivot the business and still provide care for our caregiving community, just in a different way.
Wow. So what did you open up instead of that? I mean, that was very astute of you. You must be an entrepreneur to think off your feet like that and just say, okay, this isn't working. Let's change it a little bit, tweak it.
Yeah. Well, after you've been in business that long and dealt with caregivers for that amount of time, what we wanted to do was provide services that they could use while they were staying safe in their home. Plus, I had to use what I had, because during that time there wasn't a pool of investment money for senior care businesses. So I had a commercial kitchen. We created home delivered meals so that
That's great.
they didn't have to worry about dinner for their loved one. My mom still cooks those meals, and and when we had reached out to the caregiving community, we called all of our families to give them the news. We didn't want them to hear about it any other way but from us. We also wanted to find out what they needed. So we have home delivered meals. I had a few vans that used to bring our folks in. So we do senior transportation. And we also added a genetic testing lab so that people can take their own health and diagnosis in their own hands and be able to provide that information to their families.
Yeah.
That's
I cut
very
out
empowering.
briefly. Did you mention something about where are they getting their daycare from, or there's nowhere available? They got to stay home. Is that kind of what's said?
There are some that are open. Some of the smaller adult days are able to, meaning those that can hold like 20 to 25, we're able to open a little bit more safely, in my opinion. Averaging about 50 to 55 a day, it was going to be hard to do that at the ratios that were being recommended, as well as just to be quite frank, to open at that ratio, we would have been paying to have people come to us.
Because they changed the ratios,
right. And so that's just not good business sense. Yeah.
Remind me how many you had again?
Wouldn't have been worth it.
That's right.
How many did you have again?
We averaged about 50 to 55 a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you hear from those people, those customers, and are they getting along?
They are. You know what, Dave and Adrian, when I decided to close, we would always recommend that the people that attended the program bring extra clothes just in case something happened. So we had a closet full of these clothes. And so what started the home delivered meals was a couple of us staff members hopped up on one of my buses, and we put all of their belongings in there. And my mother was like, we need to send them a meal. And so when we went and delivered their belongings to them and brought them a meal, but it was really us to check on them and say hello.
Sure.
Yeah, we missed them.
I just wanted to know if lunch was the preferred meal to be delivered.
It's a hearty meal, which is what we provided at the Adult Day Center. So you could really use it for lunch or dinner.
I just wanted to know whether or not they would stay and have lunch or dinner, whatever it was, with the other person so that there was some companionship at the same time.
Yeah. Yes, they did. They ate pretty well at the center.
I'm getting hungry just talking about your mother's cooking.
Well, if you come to Atlanta, then I can have you to the center. And
is that a promise? Now I'm motivated.
Yes, that is a promise.
All right. So if I'm going to get a home-cooked meal from Mom, I will be there.
Okay.
How far are you from downtown?
About 45 minutes.
Well, I guess it's worth the drive.
It will be worth it. I promise that.
Because I'm always downtown. So is there a special way to effectively navigate a loved one's plan of care? Everyone needs a plan. Failing to plan is planning to fail, right?
That's right.
What's your philosophy?
Be proactive. There were many times, and I understand things happen, like you had mentioned on the break, in that the commercial that you have, sometimes we don't plan for these things to happen. But it's being proactive as much as you can and learning about what's out there and the resources. And I feel like there are a lot of resources there, but then it's navigating through all the resources. You get this long list of who to call, but it's like, where do you start? And that was the other thought behind establishing a caregiver resource center, so that caregivers had someone that they can talk with and find, if there's a list of 10, okay, well, these 3 are the top calls to make, and then start to establish the plan, because you can get frustrated, as you know, if you're calling, especially a government entity, and not getting through.
On the phone, on hold forever.
Yes.
So did you rent a building when you were doing all this? Did you own the building? I mean, what was the facility like?
It's my building.
And so you own it.
I do own it. It's
and
in
you still own
Georgia.
It still is. So
yes.
you can go back to the way things were. Yeah.
If and when things return to normal, you're back in business.
We will see.
Yes? We
will see.
But you're capable to. It's an option.
We are capable to, yes. Okay. But right now, I think a lot of the, if we can have supporting senior care businesses, then we can assist with where the void is, and that's in navigating the care for their loved one, to assist them with that.
You're smart. You're an entrepreneur. You'll figure it out. But you'll have lots of options. Go ahead, Adrian.
I have a question. Were most of these people living with their children, or were they, aging in place, which is the preferred way to be, and their children were overseeing it? Which did you find?
You mean in their own home?
Was the best way?
Home alone.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot that were living home alone just because of whether it was a cognitive or physical impairment. So typically they were living with an adult child or a spouse, which both have things that they need to do during the day. The spouse, we encouraged to get respite as much as they could. You don't want to be that burned out caregiver. And the adult child, they had to work for the most part.
Right.
So I'm concerned for you. I mean, this is quite a shift in business model. Are you okay? Is the income what it was before? Did you have to get a job? Oh, hell no.
Hell no.
Are you working a job? But how are you making ends meet?
Well, with our services, it's providing what it needs to right now. And
you're getting by.
Right. And lifestyle is calm. And I have a virtual learner at home. And so what it's doing, it's allowing me the flexibility to be home with him while he's at school. but still be able to be there for our caregiving community, providing some sense of services while they are staying safe in their home.
Is that your
Were
son?
you able to get any government money?
Yes, we did. We were able to
great.
take advantage of that. So that was very helpful to get us through to where we are right now.
You mean like PPP?
Yeah.
PPP and IDLE, yes.
I know.
Yeah.
I got it. I
Great.
got 2 of them. I don't know if you got the second one yet, but you better hurry up. And they were very, very helpful.
Yes. Yeah, we did get the second one as well.
Oh,
so,
good
I mean,
for you.
after you've operated for that amount of time.
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
You have,
You're in
you have
easy,
access to that.
And it depends on your employees. And if you had a lot of employees, you can get a lot of money. So that was good.
Yes.
Thank God. God provides, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
That's why you have a smile on your face. You obviously have a love and a passion for seniors and caregivers that shows, and I'm so grateful that you're out there in the community doing this, because you're not just doing it to make money or it's a business. A lot of people think that paid caregivers aren't as devoted, aren't as compassionate as family caregivers, but that's not always true. Most paid caregivers, and Adria will agree, they get depressed when their patient dies, and they go through the grief process. I mean, it was their family.
They've had a long relationship.
Yeah, and I know you're kind of the same way. I mean, I'm sure some of your what are we calling them, Adrian? Members. I'm sure some of your members. I'm sure many of your members in 10 years have passed on. Have they?
We've seen our share, that's for sure. Yeah. But I had a memory wall in the center so that we could still see their beautiful faces, because it did affect staff just like it does the family, because especially with the longevity. I mean, we've had people with us 8-9 years. So, yeah.
And I'm sure the caregivers just love you, and you have a relationship with them as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they're not too mad at me right now. I will say, we were the one of the best in the area.
You were the respite.
And, without opening, it did leave. That was a huge burden. 90 families was the amount that we had enrolled at the time, and 20 employees. So it's letting go of almost all of your staff and not providing care to these to the family members that were used to it. So
you spoiled them
a little bit. But that was the fun part.
Yeah, like a grandparent. So you wouldn't know anything about that.
But I like that, because if you think about that, one thing that I said was, they would come to us, and I was talking about this on a health fair we had last week. They would come to us, and we had the best of them. So we were able to have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
But with those same behaviors would frustrate the family. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of having caregiver training sessions, maybe special events. And if you ever want us to get involved, we will, or virtual events. There's a lot you can do. I mean, it's only the imagination that keeps you from doing something, because like you haven't thought of it yet. But I think we should take another break. Yeah.
Organize Zoom events, Dave.
Organize Zoom events, yes.
Yeah.
So, lots of things we can do. So we're going to take another break. We will be right back. Don't go away. Dave Nasani, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too, Thrive to Stay Alive as a Caregiver. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. He now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his amazing caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out. thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's my life too. Thrive and stay alive as a caregiver will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere and at caregiverdave.com. And we're back on the Caregiver Dave Show, and I'm Dave Nasani, and we have Adrian and Aysha. Why does your name on the bottom say Aysha Cooper? Is that your maiden name?
Aysha Treadwell is actually my maiden name.
Oh, and you got a lot of names.
Just be, I wrote a book about my 10-year journey in adult day, and so I wrote that in my maiden name. So maybe everything isn't updated to Cooper.
So today you're Aysha Treadwell, yes?
Treadwell.
I am Aysha Treadwell. I confused my community because everybody knew me as Aysha Cooper. So when I went back to Treadwell, they're like, who is she? But, you know, when you have a name like Aysha.
I know. See, men never have to change their names, but you women, you got the short end of the stick. You're always changing your name, especially when you're marrying. I mean, think about how many times Elizabeth Taylor had to change her name.
Freedom, Dave.
Yes.
Reinvent ourselves, Adrian. Is that what it is?
Well, and every time you get a new name, you get a new identity and a new chance to be, new personality and all of that stuff. But for the last half of the show, last third of the show, let's talk about caregivers and their plight. Because do you have a list of some how-tos on keeping caregiver self-care a priority? Because as you know, 30% of caregivers, maybe you don't know, but I'm sure you do, 30% of caregivers actually die before their loved ones do. And then their loved ones, have to go into some facility. And it's hard to find a good facility. Most of them I wouldn't put my cat in, I always like to say. But if you do your homework like I did, I was able to find a really good facility for my mother. And it wasn't as close to my home as I had wanted. It's about a 35-minute drive. But it was more important that, she was happy than I was happy because, she's the one who has to live day by day by day. And they had great activities and great food and all those things. And that was more important than my convenience. The other, maybe about 60%, 50 to 60% of caregivers just get sick, become sicker, and eventually need a caregiver of their own. And so now you got two people to provide care for. And there's a shortage of facilities, as you know, and there's a shortage of caregivers, and it's only going to get worse. I call it the caregiver tsunami because all the baby boomers are getting older, and we're going to need care. And where are they going to come from? Who's going to take care of grandma? You know what I mean? So some how-tos for self-care. What do you got?
Well, I'll use what we just launched a virtual self-care health fair a couple of weeks ago. And because our model right now is keep your self-care a priority while being proactive in your loved one's plan of care. So some of the things that we brought to the caregiver were the joy of reading. We had our county library come and speak about the joy of reading and some resources that they could take advantage of, even staying at home. The benefits of walking, even if it's just 5 minutes. Decluttering your home because you want your space to feel inviting to you. We talked about journaling, and then we closed it out with a yoga segment. The title of your book is perfect. It's My Life Too. And they have to keep that at top of mind, that it's your life too. So if you're burning at both ends, who's going to take care of your loved one if you do predecease or get sick? So when I'm talking about self-care priority, I want to bring in some of, not resources for you to navigate your loved one's care. It's what can you do for yourself? So we look forward to having a series of those self-care health fairs and bringing other things massage and meditation, and how can you just nourish and love yourself? When you wake up in the morning, set an intention to love and respect yourself first.
Yeah, and COVID shouldn't be an excuse to stop doing that. Maybe you can't go get a massage somewhere, but maybe you have a friend who you are safe with, and maybe you can do the barter thing. If they're good at massages, hey, you massage me, and I'll go shopping for you, or whatever it is you hate to do. And
Yes.
it's time to be creative. Are those recorded so someone can go and access them anytime?
Yes, they actually we just released them yesterday. They are on our
Are
YouTube
are they
channel.
free?
They are free on the
Oh,
McKinley
bless
Caregiver
you.
Resource Center YouTube channel. And we split up each segment so that you could just go to the segment that speaks to you. And we're going to do it again in April. So we're hoping to bring very
That was your
creative.
first?
That was our first one.
Congratulations, you can do it again.
Thank you.
So see,
Yes.
you're a clever entrepreneur. You're doing it all. And I guess the best is yet to come, right? Things you haven't even imagined.
Right. Yeah.
Things you haven't even thought of. Adrienne has, I don't know how much you know about Adrienne, but she has, she was a caregiver to her husband, her mother, and her mother-in-law. So she has risen to sainthood. And now she started, if that wasn't great enough, now she started this website and Facebook page, the Caregiver Space, and she's got 165 or so people following her. I think they're all caregivers.
1,000 people.
1,000.
You said 165.
No, I said 1,000, but I must have cut out during that 1,000 part. Because I'm cutting in and out all the time here. 165,000. It's like the guy he says, $1 million. And so it's a great site, and people can go there, and they have. She's one of the few people who still have chat rooms. You have chat rooms, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And if you're an aftercare person, then you can go to that one. If you are a cancer caregiver, you go to that one, and so on. Spousal caregiver, you go to that one.
Spousal, parental.
Yeah, those are the hard ones, the parental ones.
And
spousal.
Yeah.
Dealing with
parents
family.
of parents of children, young caregivers, special needs. It's really in the LGBTQ, all sorts of support groups, and they're all chats. They're chat rooms, as well as being type stuff.
Yeah, so these are just some of the things that a caregiver can do when they're no longer a caregiver, or maybe even while they're still a caregiver, because she was thinking about this while she was a caregiver. And so I can't wait to imagine what's next for you, Aysha, because I know you're always thinking. Do you have any plans for the future that you're just kind of thinking about that haven't really materialized yet, that you can whet our appetite in anticipation?
I'm just gonna, it's been nice to have clarity and go with it as it comes. I'm loving that. I'm enjoying the journey.
I think you're going to come up with some really original ideas for how to do what you're doing at home as well as having the facility. And I think that the pairing is going to be really amazing.
Okay.
I have faith in you, Aysha.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Maybe the facility is going to turn into this giant kitchen you're going to feed thousands and thousands of people every single day. Your poor mother, I hope your mother is young.
This is keeping her young. My mother is 72, and
God bless her.
She enjoys cooking, but we keep it at a minimum. If we ramp it up, we're going to have to find some people
Well,
she
then
can
she'll be in
train.
Oh
charge
yeah.
of the cooking.
Yes.
No, add more salt. No. What is this? We can't serve this to our people. What's the matter with you? Do that over again. She can be in charge.
And that she can do very well.
Sergeant, yes. So who knows, and sometimes God doesn't tell us what we're going to do because it'll scare us. You're on a
Yes.
need to know basis. I'm glad nobody told me that I'd be doing all of this years and years ago because it would freak me out. Couldn't handle
Yeah,
it. Your faith has to grow.
that's
So,
right. And you have
for,
to have those clear moments to be able
yeah,
to accept it and
yeah.
know that that's what you move on.
And this is no
Um,
accident. Everything happens for a reason. This
yes.
COVID thing and everyone like disconnecting from everything because people need to disconnect and need to think and meditate and I assume you're doing that. And in a way, you're under less pressure, less stress. You can relax more. You can spend more time with your good-looking son that I saw on Facebook. How old is he? 8?
He's 14.
14,
I
sorry.
can't believe I have a 14-year-old. He was
Maybe,
probably 8 in that picture, but
all
once they
right, I feel
become
better.
teenagers, for some reason they don't like to get their picture taken. So it's hard for
Ah.
me to do that.
Well, you're lucky he even still likes you. All of a sudden the
Well,
parents
don't tell
turn
me
to
that.
enemies. No. Just enjoy it while you can. I'll just say that. Teenagers, it's a
Yes,
strange culture, especially today. But
right.
the better you raise them, make them more family centered and home centered, and they can resist that peer pressure as they get older. And uh, you know, there's a lot of good winners out there, uh,
Yes.
and he might be one of them. We'll just pray that he is.
We will
Yeah.
pray.
Yeah, I have 7 kids, and
I have
oh
faith.
no
Wow.
no 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 no, I said that wrong. I have 3 kids,
Yeah.
3 daughters,
Okay.
and 7 grandchildren, ranging from 34 to 16, and a brand new great granddaughter who's just like 2 or 3 months old.
It's
So I got a lot of
adorable.
people
Oh, wow.
I not worry about, but concerned about. That they stay on the right track. But grandparents, we lost the control that we had as parents. Just think of your mother. I mean, she may have opinions about how to raise your son that maybe you disagree with her, and unfortunately, you're the mother, so you get to veto anything that you disagree about. So, but that's why we spoil them because we can't do other things. But enough of me.
That's the beauty of being a grandparent.
Grandparent.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But then you can just stay in the spoiling space and make us the bad guy. But it's okay.
So when you were a caregiver to your mother when she was going through her surgeries and stuff, did you suffer burnout? Did you make some mistakes that we can learn from?
I didn't, or maybe I used a little too much salt. I remember one day her telling me with knee surgery and you can't really get up that the
Right.
food wasn't right. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, get up and cook it yourself. No. But
What
so
you
we
talking
go
about,
through,
Willis?
right. So we go through those moments, even if it's a temporary situation. So you have to find ways. Thankfully, I was in the industry. So I was able to take a step back and breathe and
What industry? The caregiving industry?
caregiver. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And had dealt with caregivers, and I'm sitting here teaching them how to take a breather. But I know some of those things take you back, and you get really frustrated and burn out. But it is about just not responding at that moment and taking some time out for yourself to make sure that you don't let that get to you as much as you can.
I mean, I
Well,
know when I had my knee surgery and my boyfriend was taking care of me, I warned him about what I might become just get angry and snap at him and complain. And I said, you've got to know that it's not about you. It's about what I'm going through. I was right.
But the good thing is you warned him. Most people don't warn him. Yeah, most people won't do that.
That's what I had to. Yeah. I saw it coming.
We can be real with ourselves and say,
yeah,
this is how I'm going to be. Are you up for the challenge?
Well, I can't believe how fast this hour has gone. Can you believe how fast this hour has gone, Adrian?
Bye.
So if listeners are interested in finding out more about you, where can they go, Aysha?
They could go to McKinleyGA.com, McKinleyGA for Georgia.com. That is our website, but they can also use that the McKinley on Facebook, McKinleyGA. And I would just encourage people to go to YouTube because we're posting videos that they could, that with some valuable content on self-care.
Absolutely. And, I just have to say that that's a very, very valuable resource and you're giving it away free. So I would encourage people to go to McKinley. What is it again? One more time?
McKinleyGA.com.
McKinleyGA for Georgia.
Yes.
.com.
Right.
Okay. And Adrian, how do we get a hold of you if people want to learn more about the caregiver space?
Adrian at thecaregiverspace.org, and all the social media links are at the bottom. And the website is primarily a magazine at this point, but the Facebook page is really where the forums and the chat rooms and everything else have been enabled by Facebook.
Oh, well, that's good. As long as there's a Facebook, you're in business. And again, a reminder that all our live shows become recorded podcasts and videocasts on our membership website and also on all those other platforms I mentioned, like iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and so on. Just look for Caregiver Dave or Caregiver Dave on Google. And by the way, we have 3 free gifts for anyone who just goes and visits caregiverdave.com. And Aysha and Adrian and all my listeners, thank you again for tuning in. And so until next week, same time, may God richly bless you all, as they say in Georgia.
Y'all.
Y'all.
I live there.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.